These are the 7th grade notes over standard form of a line. Now when we're talking about standard form of a line, we're talking about one of those ways of graphing that requires a lot less work than us using the table method. We've seen some of those other methods that require less work. We've hit on point slope, which is when we graph a point and a slope. We've seen slope intercept when we graph a slope and the y-intercept. Right? This one is standard form. Now standard form looks a specific way. It has the x term first, and then the y term second, and then the equal sign, and then the lonesome number, whatever that lonesome number has to be. And so that's the way we're going to look at writing the equations here. That's the way the equations are going to look in all your examples and in the homework problems today. Again, x thing first, then the y thing, then the equal sign, and then the plain Jane number. Now, as far as that goes here, now what you're going to see is you have two different approaches to solve using this method. What you're going to end up doing with this method, no matter which approach you do, is you're going to end up plotting the x and the y-intercepts, where the graph crosses over the x-axis and where the graph crosses over the y-axis. Now, which method you use to do that is up to you. But I will tell you of the two options that are presented, option number 1, that's on the left side in the box there, actually does not require us to have that in that specific order that I just mentioned. You can have it in any order and make this option work. Option 2 that's listed there, that does require us to have the x things first, and then the y things, and then the equal sign and the number. But again, this is totally up to you. You're not going to be forced in the notes, or in the homework, or on the quiz, or in the review to use a specific form here. All right, so if you like what you see in option 1 as we go through the presentation, use what's in option 1. If you like what you see in option 2 in the presentation, use option 2. So, again, we're going to predicate this based on the fact that x things are going to be first, then y things, then equal signs, and then the plain Jane numbers. Okay, so option 1. In option 1, what you're going to do is find the x and the y-intercept. And the way you're going to do that is let the opposite value equal 0, and that will identify the intercept you're interested in. So what they're saying there is when I want to find the x-intercept, remember the x-intercept is where the graph goes over the x-axis. When I want to find the x-intercept, I'm going to look at my equation and change y into 0. And when I change y into 0, what's going to happen is that y term is going to totally disappear. I'm going to then find x. Whatever I find for x is then my x-intercept, where the graph crosses over the x-axis. Right? I'm going to do the same thing for finding y, the y-intercept. When I want to find the y-intercept, where the graph crosses over the y-axis, I'm going to let the x term equal 0. Well, when I change x into 0, what says x there is going to disappear, and it's just going to leave me with y. I'm going to find y and what's left, and that's where the graph crosses over the y-axis. So that's option 1, which we'll see in the notes here in a moment. Now, in option 2 here, what you're going to do is you're going to have to make sure that in option 2, it is written in standard form. Again, I've already said to you that this option, option 1, works really with anything. It doesn't have to look that specific way. Option 2, it does. Again, x things first, then y things, then equal signs, then numbers. And what you're going to do here is once you get it written in that form, there's going to be a number that shows up in front of x, a number that shows up in front of y, and then something that's after the equal sign, which is what you can see they're describing right here. Those 3 numbers are what you need to find the x and the y-intercept. This number in front of x is a in this formula. The number in front of y is called b in the formula. And the number after the equal sign that's all by itself, that's c in the formula. All right? To find the x-intercept, where the graph crosses over the x-axis, you're going to take the c value and divide it by the a value. To find the y-intercept, where the graph crosses over the y-axis, you're going to take the c value and divide it by the b value. Once you find your x and the y-intercept, put your dot on the x-axis for the x-intercept, put your dot on the y-axis for the y-intercept, connect the points. Whichever method you approach the questions with here, whichever method, both do the same thing. They put a dot on the x-axis and a dot on the y-axis. So if you say here I've got a dot in quadrant 1 and a dot in quadrant 3, I know it's wrong because either method has one dot on the x and one dot on the y, and that's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and go down to the bottom here and take a look at what we've got here in the problem that's worked out for you. We've got 4x plus 3y equals 12, and it's solved both ways. So let's start with option 1 here, which is what you see on the left side. Now, we'll go back and quickly point out that this is written in standard form. How do I know that? The x thing is first, the y thing is second, then the equal sign and the number. That's what standard form says. It's x, y equals sign number. Alright, so what the procedure set up top is when I want to find the x-intercept, which is the second one here, where I'm finding y. If I want to find the y-intercept, or the x-intercept, what I do is I let y become 0. So I change y into 0. But when I change y into 0, that middle part there says 3 times 0, which is just 0. So that's gone. So it's just going to say 4x equals 12. Well, if 4x equals 12, that means x has to equal 3, because 4 times 3 is 12. Well, that means my x-intercept is 3. The graph is going to go across the x-axis at 3. We'll graph it. Other option here then, or the other thing you have to do, is you're going to have to find the y-intercept, where the graph goes over the y-axis, the one that goes up and down. Well, the way you do that is you let x equal 0. If I let x equal 0, this front part is going to change into 4 times 0. That's going to go away. So it's just going to say 3y equals 12. Well, if it says 3y equals 12, as you can see, that means y has to equal 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. So we've got an x of 3 and y of 4. X-intercept is 3. Graph goes over the x-axis at 3. Y-intercept is 4. Graph goes over the y-axis at 4. We connect those 2 points, and there's the graph of your line. Now, if you want to try it with option 2, what option 2 says is you got to make sure it's written that specific way. And again, we've already talked about it is. All right, it's got to be written with the x term first, the y term second, and then the equal sign and the number. All right, so once we do that, we identify what corresponds with A, B, and C. A in the form is whatever's in front of x, so A is 4. B in the equation is whatever's in front of y, 3. And if this were to say minus, we treat it like negative. C here says 12. So the C value is 12, which is the first thing you see they're identifying over here. Once you identify A, B, and C, it's 2 calculations to find the x and the y-intercept. The x-intercept is the C value divided by the A value. 12 divided by 4, which changes into 3. Well, as you can see, if we look back over here at option 1, we found the same thing, that the x-intercept is 3. The y-intercept is the C value divided by the B value. 12 divided by 3, 12 divided by 3 changes into 4. Well, notice again, that's exactly what we found over there, that the y-intercept is 4. So either way we go, same answers, which is going to happen every single time. We found out that the x-intercept is 3 and the y-intercept is 4. So now we're ready to graph that. We're going to graph an x-intercept of 3 and a y-intercept of